Hey guys, Imran here. Today we have 3 phones in for comparison. So Samsung has kindly sent over the S21 Plus, S21 Ultra, and the Z Fold 2 here has been my daily driver for the past few months. In this video, I'll be focusing on the key differences between these devices and hopefully help to answer which one might be the one for you if you are considering between any of these models. In terms of the out-of-box experience, Samsung have went with a minimal approach to the S21 series. In the box, you will get just the handset and a USB C to C cable. There is no charging brick included here. Therefore, you will need to have one on standby or get one with a USB-C outlet and also a pair of earphones if you need one. The Z Fold 2 is more complete in that respect. You get all the same accessories plus a charging brick and a pair of wired earphones. In terms of the overall dimensions, the S21 Ultra and the S21 are almost identical, with the Ultra just being a tad bit larger than the 21 Plus. But in terms of weight-wise, the Z Fold 2 here is the heaviest of the three, and it is almost twice as thick as the S21 Ultra. So if we put it side by side for comparison, you can see that it is almost twice thicker. However, due to how narrow the Z Fold 2 is, as you can see here, one-handed usage is much more comfortable on the Z Fold 2, whereas on the S21 Ultra and the S21 Plus, it is a bit of a struggle, to reach the edges of the screen one-handed. On the back of these devices, you do get a camera bump, with the S21 series more flush towards the corner. So when you lay flat these phones, it will actually wobble a fair bit due to the camera bump, but this can easily be solved with a case. In terms of color options, the Z Fold 2 here comes in bronze and black, while the S21 Ultra and S21 Plus comes in either phantom black or silver, depending on your region. The Phantom Black here has a nice matte black finish, which does make it less prone to fingerprints if you are the type that doesn't use a case. I must say that the silver looks equally as good, so it's a really matter of personal preference. It does feel pretty slippery in the hands though, so I would recommend getting a case for more grip. Under the hood, the S21 series features the latest Exynos 2100 chip, which is based on an improved 5mm chip, while the Z Fold 2 is on last generation Snapdragon 865. They all feature 12GB of RAM with exception of the S21 Plus, which has only 8GB of RAM. As for storage options, the S21 Ultra is available in 256GB or 512GB, while 128GB or 256GB for the S21 Plus and 256GB for the Z Fold 2. In terms of synthetic benchmarks, we can see here that the Exynos 2100 chip on the S21 series is clearly a step up in terms of single, multi-core and graphics performance on both Geekbench and Antutu benchmarks. For the display, the Z Fold 2 has a 6.23-inch cover display and a 7.6-inch main flexible display, while the S21 Ultra and S21 Plus have a 6.8-inch and 6.7-inch display respectively. All of the main displays here feature dynamic AMOLED with 120Hz refresh rate, with exception of the cover display on the Z Fold 2, which is actually capped at 60Hz, and all 3 devices here support HDR10+. Now, let's measure the peak brightness on all 3 devices, starting with the S21 Plus. You can see here that the S21 Plus is recording about 730 lux thereabouts, whereas on the S21 Plus we are seeing more or less the same level of brightness. And finally, on the cover display of the Z Fold 2, it is hovering around 680 lux, while the main display of the Z Fold 2 is much brighter compared to its cover display with a reading of around 750 lux, which is comparable to the S21 series displays. In terms of real-world usage, I can say that these devices are pretty identical in peak brightness and you won't have any visibility issues under sunlight. For the camera setup, on the rear of the S21 Ultra, it features a quad camera setup consisting of a 108MP primary sensor, a 12MP ultra-wide, a 10MP 10x telephoto, and a 10MP 3x snapper, while on the S21 Plus, it has a triple camera setup with a 12MP main sensor, a 64MP telephoto, and a 12MP ultra-wide sensor. The camera setup on the Z Fold 2 on the other hand is also a triple camera setup with a 12MP main, a 12MP telephoto, and a 12MP ultra-wide sensor. For selfies, there is a 40MP sensor on the S21 Ultra, a 10MP sensor on the S21 Plus, and finally, a 10MP sensor on the cover and a 10MP main front camera on the Z Fold 2. Although you can also use the rear camera here for selfies easily by making use of the cover display as the preview. In terms of zoom capabilities, the S21 Ultra features 10x optical zoom, while the S21 Plus feature a 3x optical zoom and the Z Fold 2 feature a 2x optical zoom. On top of that, with the S21 Ultra, you can get even more tighter shots using the 100x space zoom, which is essentially a hybrid zoom of 10x optical stacked with 10x digital. The S21 Plus on the other hand has a 30x space zoom, while the Z Fold 2 caps out at 10x digital zoom only. Here are some sample shots. The Z Fold 2 features dual speakers on the top and bottom, while on both the S21 Ultra and S21 Plus, it both have single firing speakers at the bottom. Here, we measure the peak loudness and audio quality on maximum volume, starting first with the S21 Plus. Overall, the speaker setup and quality is far more superior on the Z Fold 2 as you get that nice audio separation and immersion with the dual speakers at the top and bottom. With the unique 4:3 aspect ratio display on the Z Fold 2, you do get a better and more flexible multitasking experience when displaying two apps side by side. One disadvantage to take note though is that most social media apps like Instagram only supports the more native 16:9, so when you run this type of apps in 4:3, there will be some cropping. Fortunately, there is a workaround to force certain apps to open exclusively in 16:9 format. Likewise, for video or movie consumption, you can expect some black bars while in full screen mode on the Z Fold 2. On the other hand, you can take advantage of the extra real estate if you like to multitask while watching a video or live stream, for example. The Z Fold 2 gives you more flexibility while still maintaining a sizable enough viewing estate, which otherwise will not be possible on the S21 series. Complemented by the dual firing speakers at the top and bottom, I personally feel that the Z Fold 2 is overall the better device if you are talking about multimedia consumption exclusively. The S21 Ultra packs a 5000 mAh battery followed by the 4800 mAh on the S21 Plus and 4500 mAh on the Z Fold 2. From my day-to-day usage, the S21 Ultra and the S21 Plus indeed lasted longer for me. That being said, the Z Fold 2 still has pretty good battery life as I can comfortably go through my day of mixed use before it running flat. To briefly conclude and summarize this video, the S21 Plus is a great all-rounder with less bells and whistles but still remains a solid option, while with the S21 Ultra you do get flagship-grade, top-of-the-line performance with the most capable camera sensors on board in the market for both photography and videography. The Z Fold 2 on the other hand is a one-of-a-kind device that excels at multitasking and is a multimedia beast. Alternatively, you could also consider the Fold 1 if you wish to try a foldable but not sure if you like the form factor. At the end of the day, the S21 series and the Z Fold are both unique lineups in their own right, and it will ultimately boil down to your personal usage patterns and financial appetite, as the Z Fold 2 and foldables in general remains to be a premium pricing wise. So I hope this video has been useful, and if you enjoyed what you saw, do leave a like, comment and subscribe for more content like this one. Thank you and see you in the next one.